Well, we are live at High Point Church Christ, and my name is Clint Levness, and I'm going to teach a 7-part class on the topic of apologetics. And this is the class schedule. I'm going to pull up the schedule here. Now, everyone online, can you see me live and see the PowerPoint? If not, send a comment. If you see any technical issues, this is the first session. It's actually my first time going live and streaming on social media. And so I'm excited to teach on this topic. So these are the topics for each Sunday. It's a 7-part class. And today we're going to be talking about the evidence for God. And next Sunday, we're going to be talking about the evidence for the Bible. How do you know the Bible is true? Also, the following Sunday, we're going to talk about, did Jesus really claim to be God? Some atheists would say, well, Jesus never claimed to be God. His disciples made it up. Or you're talking with maybe some Mormons. They don't believe that Jesus was divine. What would you say to that objection? What if you're talking with a person who's an unbeliever and they ask you, well, what evidence do you have for Jesus rising from the dead? Is there any evidence for the resurrection? And then the next Sunday, on March 28th, I'm actually not going to be in the classroom. I'm going to bring in a guest speaker. I'll be on my first year anniversary, and I'm excited about that. I'll be out of town. But I invited a guest speaker. His name is Frank Sherwin. He works at the Institute of Creation Research, and he's going to be talking about the topic of creation versus evolution. And he is a scholar and the expert. And so not only will he give a presentation, but he's going to do a Q&A if you have any questions on that topic. And not only is he intelligent, but he has a sense of humor. So he can make you laugh too. And that's very important for talking about these hard topics. And then my favorite presentation, and something that's a little bit more original and personal, is on the topic of the Holy Lands and on archaeology. And I've been able to travel to the Holy Lands thanks to God answering my prayers of asking for him to take me to the Holy Lands to have that experience. And James Norrid actually took me to film a video series of him on a video series called The Story of Redemption, and it's an overview of the whole Bible. And so I broke this topic into 2 classes. So on April 18th, for just keeping it simple, I'm calling it the Old Testament section. Now a lot of the lands cross over, but it's the Old Testament section, focus on those events, talking about these are the locations and here's some archaeology. And so the majority of it's going to be my time in Egypt and how the Egyptian history matches Christian or biblical history there. And then the next Sunday on the 25th in April, we're going to be talking about more of archaeology and the Holy Lands connected to the events we read in the New Testament. So those are my favorite classes to teach, and you'll be seeing pictures that I took from my travels to Israel and Egypt and Rome and Greece. I've been to Israel 3 times and Egypt 2 times. And I highly recommend, if you ever get an opportunity to go, it definitely just turns the pages of the Bible into life. But today's topic is going to be on the evidence for God. And let's get to it. You know, I grew up in church and went to Bible camps, went to a Christian school, and even worked at church as their video guy. And I never really heard the word apologetics. When I did hear this word, I didn't know what it meant. And then I had some friends and family members who are not Christians. And so I read a book by Lee Strobel. He was a newspaper reporter that wanted to disprove Christianity. And in the process, he went where the evidence took him, and he became a Christian because of the overwhelming evidence. Lee Strobel, in his book, The Case for Christ, he used the word apologetics. And when I found out what that word meant, I found my new favorite topic. And that word means to give a defense, to provide reasons for the truth of Christianity. Just like Paul did on Mars Hill in Athens, which I got to go and stand on that very mountain. He saw the different idols and he researched the idols that people worshipped. And so he understood their culture and he used that as an opportunity to share his faith in the true God of the universe. So a key verse you want to memorize is 1 Peter 3:15, to always be ready and prepared to make a defense and apologia to anyone who asks for you a reason for the hope that is in you. But this is important. But do this with gentleness and respect. The first lesson of apologetics is you want to win the person and not the argument. It's very important. Another verse is, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. Mark 12:30. Now, worldview, any worldview, you have to answer the questions of life. Where did I come from? Where am I going? And why am I here? This is a great verse to also have memorized. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. Romans 1:20. Now, today's PowerPoint I got from a resource called Apologetics Made Easy. If you add a .com, it's an incredible website. I highly recommend it. And if I could do it, you could do it. And so if you want to teach this presentation, this is one of many resources you could go to, and you can watch their videos or use it as a resource to teach others. And so that's the where I got today's information from, in a way that is visual and illustrations that makes apologetics easy to understand. We're going to look at these important topics. Does God exist? Miracles? Is the New Testament a history book? And is the Bible true? The resurrection of Jesus? So we want to become Christian case makers. Now, I actually got to film a video with J. Warner Wallace. He was an atheist, and he has a pretty neat story where his wife dragged him to church, and he heard the preacher say that Jesus was the smartest man that ever lived. And that got his attention. It made him think, well, I'm a detective. He's a cold case detective. You can see him on Dateline and all these different crime shows and news networks. And he thought, I can use his line of work to see if the eyewitnesses of the New Testament were telling the truth. And when he examined the eyewitnesses of the Gospels, he became a Christian. And he's one of my favorite apologists. He wrote these 3 books. His first one is called Cold Case Christianity. So when he goes and speaks today as a Christian apologist, he tells people to be a Christian case maker. And he said, don't just listen to the lessons, but mark a day in your calendar and go teach it. We need more Christian apologists. The first question you should ask somebody if they're not a believer is, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? And if they say, well, sure, if it's true, well, that can open up a door to answering their questions that they have. If they say no, it might really be a heart issue, no matter what type of evidence you have. So just keep up that relationship with them and to pray for them and ask for God to help change their heart to be open to hearing the truth. Okay, so we got 3 arguments for today's topic of the existence of God. We got the cosmological argument, we got the design argument, and the moral law argument. Now, an easy way to remember this is just remember the name of God. I'm not really good at spelling and grammar and things like that, but I could spell one word, and that's God, the G-O-D. So if you remember, G is for good and evil, the moral argument. O is for the origins, the cosmological argument, and D is for design, the design argument. Now, to get started, we want to understand cause and effect. There's things that are invisible, and we look at like a palm tree, and when we see the wind blowing against the palm tree, we see the effect, and we know that there's a cause. It's the same thing when you use your iPhone. You want to go on your iPhone and surf on the web, check your email, check social media, and you believe in Wi-Fi, and you can see the effect. You can't see Wi-Fi, it's invisible, but you know that there's a cause for that Wi-Fi because it creates an effect. Well, it's the same thing for the universe. The cosmological argument says if there's a beginning, there's a beginner. The argument for the cosmological argument is everything that had a beginning. Now, notice that key word. Everything that had a beginning had a cause. The universe had a beginning, therefore the universe had a cause. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. Well, this is self-evident. Have you ever seen something pop out of nowhere? No, everything has a cause. What comes from nothing? Our universe experience confirms this. It seems entirely more likely than its denial. The impossibility of an infinite number of past moments. This implies a beginning to the universe. This means that the universe was brought into existence by something which is greater than it, than and beyond it. Well, what are attributes of the first cause? Well, it must be uncaused. An infinite regress of causes is impossible. Timeless, therefore changeless because it created time. This cause must be immaterial because it created all matter and time. And this cause that made the universe must be supernatural because all of nature was created at the beginning. It must be super powerful, this cause, because it created the universe. So we're trying to figure out what was the cause of this effect of the universe. All these things, we need something that's outside time, space, and matter. Doesn't this sound like the nature of God? Now, another scientific thing that shows that the universe had a beginning is scientists talk about the redshifts of galaxies moving away, which shows that the universe is expanding. There's even a Bible verse that's coming up pretty soon that says that God stretches out the heavens. Another line of evidence that shows that the universe is not eternal, that had a beginning, is you could think of a flashlight. Now, if you have a flashlight, you have to put batteries in, and the batteries have power, usable power. Now, you could think of the stars like mini flashlights. Now, the second law of thermodynamics says that the universe is running out of usable energy. But an eternal universe with its lights on for an infinity long time would already be dark. The universe is like a dying flashlight. It's running out of energy, according to the second law of thermodynamics. But the lights are still on, which shows that the universe is not eternal. So if the universe had a beginning, if it doesn't go for infinity, if it had a beginning, and it does, all the secular scientists, in fact, they believe in the Big Bang. They said that I disagree with the Big Bang, but a lot of the secular scientists even believe that the universe had a beginning. Now, so we need something outside time, space, and matter. So I think this is a good illustration. You got this box, that's our natural world inside, and from the beginning, you have to have time, matter, and space all made at the same time. So you have to have something outside that box, something beyond the universe, and that is the first cause. Now, the topic of the Big Bang, that's questions you could ask Frank Sherwin when he comes to speak on the topic of creation versus evolution. So I'll let him speak on that question. So time, you have to have something that's timeless, immaterial, non-spatial. And these are the things that would describe what we read about the God of the Bible. Timeless, immaterial, non-spatial, super intelligent, super existent, infinite, powerful. So, in the beginning, nobody knows the origins of the universe, what created the universe, except for what the Bible tells us. So in the beginning, there is no thing, no time. It's what rocks think about, nothing. So as no thing, no time, no matter, no space that created something, time, matter, space. So we need a beginner. We need a first cause for this effect. We need something supernatural, the first cause, the beginner, to create this natural world. And that points to God. Now, a question that people have is, well, what's the greatest miracle? What about miracles? And that's the question. I haven't seen, people might say, well, I haven't seen a miracle. I read about these miracles in the Bible of Jesus walking on water, the resurrection, water turning it into wine. I can't believe in that. Well, think about it. If God could create the universe and how amazing of a miracle that is, wouldn't everything else be a piece of cake? If God can make the universe out of nothing, don't you think he can make someone walk in water or raise someone from the dead? If the universe had a beginning, then it must had a beginning. If the universe had a beginning, it must have had a beginner. The evidence leaves us with the following two options. Either no one created something out of nothing, the atheist view, or someone created something out of nothing, the theistic view. Which view is more reasonable? So who or what caused the universe? It's either someone or no one. Which view requires more faith? Now, a question somebody might have is, okay, well, the universe, you need somebody to make the universe, but who made God? Now, this is a straw man fallacy, which means it's a weak argument. And it was stated everything that begins to exist has a cause. Not everything has a cause. See, God, the very definition of God is he's eternal. He didn't have a beginning. God did not begin to exist, therefore he does not need a cause. He's eternal. That's his definition. Everything we see had a cause, and those causes have causes, and those causes have causes, and so on. But this can't go back forever. There had to be a beginning and a first cause which started the whole thing. This is God. If God created the universe, where did God come from? Our reply would be that God didn't come from anywhere. He is eternal and has always existed, so he doesn't need a cause, but the universe has not always existed. It had a beginning. Where did the universe come from? I like this verse. It is I who made the earth and created mankind upon it. My own hand stretched out the heavens. And that's in Isaiah 45:12. Well, that's the first argument, the cosmological argument. Let's go into the design argument. Now, the design argument, some of the Christian apologists in the past have debated Christopher Hitchens, and even though Christopher Hitchens was an atheist who has passed away, but he went back when he was alive, he said that this was in his opinion, the strongest argument for God. So the design argument goes by every design had a designer. The universe has highly complex design. Therefore, the universe had a designer. Now, we're going to compare a golf ball and a spaceship to planet Earth and how designed it is. We only have two possible causes for anything: an unintelligent cause from natural causes, or an intelligent cause from a mind. When you look at Mount Rushmore or the Grand Canyon, You might look at the Grand Canyon and say, oh, wow, this must have been formed by water, or other people might say erosion. But when you look at Mount Rushmore, you never think, oh, wow, look at that, how the mountains just happen to look like faces of our presidents. No, you wouldn't think that was a natural cause. You would think there was an intelligence behind it that carved that mountain to look like our presidents. So was this cause natural or intelligent? Same thing with things like a pocket watch or a sports watch. Is fine-tuning is a result of design. Our common experience tells us that when we see complex design, it means there was a designer. If you're walking out in the woods and find a watch or a compass, you don't think, oh, wow, this is amazing that trees fell down and formed this watch. No, you would say, wow, somebody must have lost this, and look how interesting how this was made. In fact, you might flip it around and say it was made in China or USA or wherever, but it was designed by an intelligent mind. And that's the pocket watch example. The fine-tuning of the universe that allows for life, it's either due by chance or design. It's not due to chance. Therefore, it is due to design. Now, this applies to the earth and the universe. Was it designed by natural laws, or was it designed by an intelligent mind? Telos, the teleological argument, telos means design. Now, if you look at a golf ball, you can tell that the way it was crafted and made, and that it was made for a purpose of the game of golf. Let's say if you went on a vacation to Hawaii, for example, and exploring a volcano, and there's nothing but volcano rocks, and that's all you see, and you're going on a nice walk, and you see a little white dot out there, and you want to get a closer look, and you go and you pick it up, and it's a golf ball in the middle of this volcano, and there's nothing but volcano rocks. You wouldn't think that this golf ball came from the volcano. No, you would think that somebody had it in their pocket and dropped it, and there's an intelligent, this was something that was made by man, by an intelligence. Well, if the golf ball is complex with design, how much more is the earth and our universe? Did you know that there's over 100 precise constants that make human life on earth possible? We live in a hostile, lethal universe, yet our earth has all the elements that we need to survive. Now, if we travel in space, in a spaceship, the space shuttle has to have just the right conditions to support life. And you have to have a spacesuit on to be able to breathe. But on Earth, aren't we so lucky we don't have to have a spacesuit to be able to breathe? And, we have everything we need down to the weather and water and oxygen to breathe and food to eat. Life on Earth is just made perfectly designed. Now, a space shuttle can travel 17,000 miles per hour, and the Earth is traveling at 67,000 miles per hour. And it's interesting that we live on this planet that's traveling at 67,000 miles per hour with either somebody controlling it or nobody controlling it. And both thoughts are frightening. And if there is a God, don't we want to know who that God is and what he wants from us? A finely tuned universe that supports life on Earth, compared to a space shuttle, just how everything has worked perfectly for that space shuttle to survive. It's the same thing with a finely tuned universe that supports the life on Earth. Here's some interesting things. When you look at the Earth, look at all these things that have to be just designed perfectly. The distance of the Earth from the sun. If it's either too close or too far away, it'll burn up or freeze if the Earth is either too close or too far away from the sun. The actual tilt on the Earth has to be just perfect. The size and location of the moon. The location and the size of Jupiter and Saturn. the location of the solar system in our galaxy, the thickness of Earth's crust, the oxygen levels, carbon dioxide levels, and the atmosphere transparency for radiation from the sun just all have to be perfect. The rotation rate of the Earth. The universe is immensely more complex than a simple pocket watch. But if the pocket watch needs a designer, so does the universe. Isn't that amazing how the Earth is in the Goldilocks zone? If the gravitational force was altered more than just 1 part in the 10th to the 40th power, the sun would not exist, and the moon would crash into the Earth or shear off into space. So just to kind of review a few things, the 24-hour rotation, it has to be at that right 24-hour rotation of the Earth, or life would not exist. If the rotation was slower, the wind speeds would be too high. If you alter the tilt axis of the surface, if you alter the tilt of the axis of the Earth, that's different from 23 degrees, it'll either be too cold or too hot. The moon and Earth need each other because the moon helps the ocean tides and helps stabilize the actual tilt of the Earth. The oxygen levels has to be exactly at that 21%. Once again, if it's too high, it'll be too hot and burst into fire, or too low, we would suffocate. And, remember that plants, they breathe in CO2 and they produce oxygen for humans to breathe. And that's actually the next slide for the carbon dioxide. Thank God for Jupiter. Jupiter is like a cosmic vacuum cleaner. Now, see in the bottom, you see Earth, that tiny little blue dot, bottom left corner, and then you got Jupiter. Jupiter's like a cosmic vacuum cleaner, and the gravity pulls all the asteroids that would have hit Earth towards Jupiter. Thank God for Jupiter. The astrophysicist Hugh Ross has calculated the probability that these and other constants, 122 in all, would exist today for any planet in the universe by chance, without divine design. His answer is shocking, that one chance in the 10 to the 138th power, that's one chance in 1 with 138 zeros after it, there are only 10 to the 70th atom in the entire universe. Now, that's a lot. I was reading that, but let's get to the main point of what he's saying. In effect, there is zero chance that any planet in the universe would have the life-supporting conditions we have, unless there was an intelligent designer behind it all. Now think how huge the universe is. To help illustrate this, if you're trying to travel between two stars, the average distance is 30 trillion miles, and the space shuttle traveling at 17,000 miles per hour, 5 miles per second. And I'm going to round this number down. It'll take you 200,000 years to get from one star to the next. So that's Earth right there. Then you see Jupiter and Saturn. And we have to be in the right place in our galaxy. And here's another picture of Earth and Pluto. You see Earth, you have the little label there, and you compare Earth, the size of Earth, to Jupiter and Saturn. And we have to have a sun for life to exist. And there's Earth, tiny little Earth compared to the sun. Now the sun is just one star. And so compared to the size of the sun, it's that little dot. You can't even see Earth anymore compared to Betelgeuse. Yes, I know Betelgeuse is a movie, but I'm talking about the star. And Antares is the next star. And look at the size of the sun to these other stars in the universe. Isn't that incredible? Lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls them each by name. Isaiah 40:26. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him. Psalms 103. So we went into the vastness of space, and we're going to go into the depths of the cell. I love the ocean. I love going on walks in the ocean. And, if I'm walking across the ocean looking for a friend and I see something in the sand and I have glasses, I have to kind of adjust them, get a little closer, and I see surfs up and I think, well, that's interesting. I wonder if the waves made that. Or maybe little crabs came and made that in the sand. But no, I wouldn't think that. Somebody with an intelligent mind wrote a word that I could read, surfs up. Was it an intelligent cause, or was it made by natural means or an intelligent mind? This is a message. Whenever you see a message, it comes from an intelligent mind. Now, I remember as a kid, eating breakfast, and I would forget to do my chores, and my dad had to remind me multiple times to mow the lawn. And one day I was eating my breakfast, and I saw the Scrabble pieces on the table, and it said, mow the lawn. Now, I probably wouldn't think, oh, that's a coincidence. Someone dropped these pieces and just happens to spell mow the lawn. And I probably wouldn't think that. I would think, oh, I was supposed to mow the lawn this past week. And this was a creative way my dad was reminding me to mow the lawn. This was a creative message. It would not happen by chance, only by design. This is a message. We have a message inside our bodies, and that's DNA. DNA is the chemicals that encodes instructions for building and replicating all living things. DNA is sending messages to our body. And it's compared to the alphabet in books. We have 26 letters, and you could mix these letters up, and you could spell a sentence like the sky is blue, and you could write books. Now it's just, and these random letters create a message that you could read, the sky is blue. But it's the same thing with DNA. It has different letters, and when you put them in the right sequence, it can create, say, a blue-eyed baby. Now, the cell is not so simple at all. In fact, you could put I forgot how many. I can't count all these amoebas, but you could put a lot of them. I'll use that in 1 inch, and you got the nucleus inside, and the informational equivalent of the information inside of a cell or amoeba is of 1,000 sets. It's compared to having the information compared to, for example, like 1,000 sets of encyclopedias. That's a lot of information inside of our cells inside our body. It's a complex message. Now let's go to the mind. So yeah, what's between your ears? It's a brain, and there's a lot of information in our brain. It's a very big message in your brain. Here's an example. If you went to a sports arena, and if you put a stack of 1,000 books in every chair, and you would have to stack 1,000 books in every chair, and on each and every one, those would be 20,000 seats. So that's the amount of information that you could store in your brain. You are a 20 million book walking library. A message with 20,000 books worth of information that you could store in your brain. So if it took a mind to form a phrase, mow the lawn, with just 3 words, you would never say that happened by chance. You would say that happened by design. Same thing with this amoeba, this cell, that the information that's inside of the DNA of the cell is compared to 1,000 sets of encyclopedias, and a message that has And a message means you have an intelligent design. The same thing with the brain. We talked about how what's in your brain is compared to having 20 million books worth of information. So these are three different examples that shows design. Which view is more reasonable? Did someone or no one create this design in the universe and in our bodies and in our brains, in our minds? Which view requires more faith? Finally, our last argument for God is the moral law argument. How do you know what is good or what is bad? A moral law means there's a moral lawgiver. Here's the argument. Every law has a lawgiver. There is a moral law. Therefore, there is a moral lawgiver. So what's important in life? Being good, doing good things, helping others? Well, objective moral values exist. Objective moral values means that the fact that moral truths or principles are always true and universally, they always have and always will apply to humans. Given this definition, do in fact objective moral values exist? For example, murder, rape, incest, torturing little babies for pleasure, racism, genocide. Obviously, everyone knows that these are wrong. If objective moral values exist, then God exists. But some people might say, well, there could be some possible moral sources. Maybe it's the individual. Maybe we decide morals by culture or society. Or another option could be there has to be a God. If morality finds its source from individuals or cultures, it is not objective, but subjective, relative. It could change. This murder and rape, incest, slavery can be morally good if it's based on by culture or society or individuals. The only source for objective moral values is a good God. So here's two extreme examples. You think of Hitler and Mother Teresa. Now, most people would think Hitler is maybe the worst extreme person you could think of for being bad, and maybe Mother Teresa could probably be a good example of being a really good person. But then you might come across people who say, and depending on if you're living during the time period of Hitler, you would have asked people who said, no, Hitler is good. And then there might be people who say, no, in our standards, we view what Mother Teresa is doing as bad. Well, how do we know if Hitler was good or bad? And how do we know if Mother Teresa was good or bad? Without an objective standard, I'm going to say that again, without an objective standard, it's just a matter of opinion. Let's read this quote by C.S. Lewis. My argument against God was that the universe seemed so cruel and unjust. But how had I got this idea of just and unjust? A man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line. What was I comparing this universe with when I called it unjust? Now, C.S. Lewis was an atheist who became a Christian, and he wrote a book called Mere Christianity, and you probably know him from Chronicles of Narnia, which is popular books and movies. But he said we can't know something is crooked unless we know what is straight to compare it. For example, to compare this crooked line and the straight line, you would use this ruler. The moral lawgiver, we need God to know the objective truth and morality. And when you have God's standard, that helps us know what is good and what is bad. And God's standard is perfect. Now, if everybody has the same fate, death, it doesn't matter if you lived as a saint or a sinner. If there's no God, there is no standard for an objective right or wrong. One cannot condemn war, murder, incest, rape, torture of innocent babies unless there's a God. Knowing right from wrong. Some think it's okay to lie, steal, or treat others badly. That is, until somebody treats you badly. We know right from wrong best from our reactions than we do by our actions. So whenever someone doesn't believe in morality, slap them across the cheek, don't really do that, but they're going to say, hey, that's not fair when something bad happens to you. Of course, I'm making a joke there, but the requirements of the law are written on our hearts, their conscience also bearing witness. Romans 2:15. So once again, the moral law argument goes, every law has a lawgiver. There is a moral law. We know there's an objective truth standard. Therefore, there is a moral lawgiver, and that moral lawgiver is God. Well, how much faith is needed? See these two cups? If no matter what worldview you have from another religion, or maybe you're an agnostic, atheist, or a Christian, the more evidence you have in your cup, the less faith you have to have compared to just knowing a little bit of evidence. You would have to have a lot of faith. So as an atheist, they have to have a lot of faith in their worldview. Compared to a Christian who studies this evidence, if they pour in that evidence, that's going to give them a lot of confidence, and they only have to have a little bit of faith. And I just don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Now, that's actually a title of a book by Frank Turek. He's one of the most popular apologists. And a lot of this information that I went over today, you can find it in his book, and I highly recommend his book. He has a YouTube channel and a website, many resources. And a lot of this information was actually from his book, and he has such a catchy title from his book. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And like what Lee Strobel said, he went where the evidence took him, and the evidence was overwhelming for the case for Christianity. So once again, if you're talking with somebody, remember, don't win the argument, win the person. But a question you could ask is, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? There's a really good website that is called provethebible.com. And it's called Prove the Bible Beyond Unreasonable Doubt. And on the homepage, it has these 4 topics for the case of Christianity. Does God exist? Is the Bible true? Did Jesus claim to be God? And the evidence for the resurrection. And these are 4 10-minute videos that you can watch, or you can share with a friend who doesn't know about the evidence for Christianity. And I actually filmed and edited these videos, and I made this as a free resource for people to use to share with their friends and family. So all you have to do is type in provethebible.com. Now, you have different tabs, and it's organized with short videos in these different categories: questions about God, questions about the Bible, about Jesus. And also, I have a tab called the Defenders of the Faith, and these are some of the top apologists. So if you want to hear videos from Frank Turek, who wrote the book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, well, you could click on Defenders of the Faith and click on his name and watch those videos. You could click on Detective J. Warner Wallace, and you can watch videos of him giving the case for Christianity. And of course, there's a link to their official website that you can find more resources. And then you could click on another apologist to recommend, Sean McDowell. I was lucky enough to have made some short videos with Sean McDowell. And I think we made almost 100 short 3-minute videos answering the top questions people have. And you can watch these on his YouTube page, and I have it linked to the Prove the Bible website. Sean McDowell does a great job of making apologetics simple and easy to understand. He's a great communicator. And once again, this is a picture of Frank Turek's books that he's read in, and highly recommend this resource. And if you go to Resources website, you could find the presentation that I used today, which is called Truth Made Easy, and it's videos with the same PowerPoint that I showed today. And the person who made this made his own website that have linked to mine for people to find it as a resource, and it's called Truth Made Easy. And basically, he summarized Frank Turek's book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, and he made it visual and easy and short, concise videos. This is an incredible resource for people to use. So that's the end of today's presentation. Once again, this is the schedule for the upcoming topics. And so I hope you guys enjoyed today's presentation. And if I could, try to present this information, I want to encourage you guys to watch these videos, research these topics, and for you to become a Christian case maker and tell people about this overwhelming evidence for Christianity, that the evidence is overwhelming. And I'm so thankful for God just showing that he is real and that he loves us. And the most important thing is apologetics is just a way to take down some barriers, to take down some questions people have, and you want to quickly get to the gospel. And so the gospel is that because God provided the Bible and it shows us the 10 Commandments, and the 10 Commandments shows us that we cannot be perfect, that all of us have broken the 10 Commandments. We have either lied or used God's name in vain. Maybe we committed lust. We've broken these different commandments, and we are not perfect. And we have to stand before God on Judgment Day and be held accountable. And no one's perfect, but God loved us so much that he sent his son to earth to live a perfect life. A life that we couldn't have lived. And so he paid the price for our sins. He died on the cross, taking away our sins, and he proved that he was God. He came back to life. And how we know Christianity is true is because there were so many witnesses who saw a man who was alive, who came back, and we saw a man who died and came back to life, which proves that Christianity is true from the eyewitnesses' accounts, that they actually saw something. Where did Christianity come from in the first place? Of word of mouth, people saying, we saw this man, Jesus. We were with him. We're eyewitnesses. And he died and he came back to life. And if you, and we're going to talk about more evidence about the resurrection coming up. But if we place our trust in Jesus, he will forgive our sins and we can have eternal life. And that's the good news of the gospel. Well, thank you for joining us today for the first lesson of Does God Exist? And I hope you guys come back for the next 6 lessons. Now, remember, mark your calendar for the guest speaker coming on March 28th to talk about creation versus evolution. I'm excited for Frank Sherwin to come in. He works for the ICR, the Institute of Creation Research. So make sure to make a special note to come and watch him. And he'll be doing a Q&A on that topic. Thank you for watching today.
Cut.